Have you ever noticed how some people age gracefully, enjoying each day with peace and joy, while others seem to struggle, often caught up in stress and negative energy? The truth is, aging well isn't just about health, fitness, or even financial security. It's about who we surround ourselves with, the people we keep close to our hearts and in our daily lives. As we grow older, our energy, time, and peace of mind become more precious than ever. The company we keep can either uplift us or weigh us down. In this video, we're diving into the 7 types of people to avoid as we age. These are people who, knowingly or unknowingly, can drain our energy, cloud our happiness, and even impact our health. This is not about creating conflict or distancing ourselves unnecessarily. Rather, it's about protecting our peace and ensuring we're surrounded by people who genuinely support and uplift us. Each of us deserves a life filled with positivity, respect, and love. But sometimes, we hold on to relationships that don't bring us joy, often out of habit or obligation. If you've ever felt your energy drain after being around someone, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Imagine how wonderful it would be to feel uplifted and inspired by every interaction instead. In today's discussion, we'll go beyond just identifying these types of people. I'll give you practical tips for handling them, ways to set healthy boundaries, and even methods for gently encouraging more positive interactions. By the end, you'll not only know how to protect your own happiness, but also how to foster a circle that fills you with joy and peace. Now, I'd love to hear from you before we dive in. What's one thing that brings you true happiness in your day-to-day life? Let us know in the comments below. Your answers might just inspire someone else today. And don't forget, if you find this video helpful, please subscribe and hit the bell icon for more insights on making these golden years truly shine. So, let's get started with our first type of person to avoid. The one who always has something to complain about, no matter what. Point 1. The chronic complainer. One of the biggest challenges in keeping a peaceful mind as we age is handling people who constantly complain. The chronic complainer is someone who can find the downside to every situation, no matter how positive it might seem. They have an uncanny ability to turn a sunny day into a gloomy one and often bring a heavy cloud of negativity wherever they go. It's almost as if they're on a mission to find something wrong, even when everything is going well. The problem is, over time, this constant exposure to negativity can affect our own mood, outlook, and even our health. Studies have shown that consistent exposure to negative energy can lead to an increased risk of stress and emotional burnout. Let's say you're having a nice lunch with friends. The sun is shining, the food is delicious, and there's a relaxed mood around the table. But when the chronic complainer starts, it's like all that joy begins to drain. They might complain about the heat, the noise, or even the food. This can make us feel heavy and, if we're not careful, their mood can start to affect ours. Instead of leaving the gathering refreshed, we might leave feeling tense or even frustrated. Handling this kind of negativity doesn't mean we should ignore real issues or be insensitive, but we can learn to create a boundary that lets us enjoy the positive moments without getting pulled into constant complaining. Imagine having an umbrella of positivity, one that protects us from negative comments and lets us stay focused on the bright side. When the chronic complainer starts to share their complaints, we can try to gently guide the conversation to something more uplifting. For example, if they mention how hot it is, we could say, "Yes, but isn't it nice to have such bright weather after the rain?" Over time, they might start to see that we're focusing on the positives, or they may move on to someone who's more receptive to their complaints. Now, if you have a chronic complainer in your life who doesn't seem to respond to these subtle nudges, it's okay to set a more direct boundary. For instance, you could kindly say, "I'd love to hear about something positive that's happened to you recently," and see how they respond. If they resist, remember that it's not your job to solve their unhappiness, and you're not obligated to entertain negativity. Creating this positive space around yourself isn't just about shielding from negativity. It's also about actively inviting joy into your life. Research shows that people who surround themselves with positive influences tend to live healthier, more fulfilling lives. So, think of this as an investment in your own happiness. Each time you engage with positivity and gently resist negativity, you're setting the stage for a happier, healthier life. Now, I'm curious. What's one positive thought or memory that always brings you peace, no matter what's happening around you. Share it in the comments. You never know, your answer might help someone else find their own umbrella of positivity. Point 2. The unstoppable gossiper. Another person to be wary of in old age is the unstoppable gossiper. Gossip can be tempting, but those who thrive on it often do more harm than good. The unstoppable gossiper is the type of person who, instead of focusing on their own life, seems to have an endless interest in the details of everyone else's. For them, no topic is off-limits, and they don't mind sharing private matters with anyone who will listen. This behavior can seem harmless, but over time, it erodes trust and creates a sense of unease. Imagine you're at a family reunion, enjoying some warm memories with loved ones. Then, the unstoppable gossiper starts sharing details about someone who isn't there. Stories that, frankly, weren't meant for public ears. It can leave you feeling uncomfortable and even guilty, especially if the person being discussed is someone close to you. Not only can gossip be hurtful to the person being spoken about, but it can also create a culture of distrust. If someone is willing to share others' secrets so freely, it's likely they'll talk about your private matters too. One way to handle the unstoppable gossiper is to redirect the conversation. Instead of allowing them to pull you into their web of stories, try steering the discussion toward a positive or neutral topic. You might say, "I'd love to hear about something new you've been up to," or, "What's been bringing you joy lately?" This lets the gossiper know that you're not interested in discussing other people's business without coming across as judgmental or dismissive. Another useful tool to keep in mind is the triple filter test, inspired by the teachings of Socrates. Before speaking or listening to something about another person, ask yourself, is it true? Is it good? Is it useful? If it doesn't pass at least 2 of these filters, it might be better to leave it unsaid. This simple test can be a powerful way to avoid getting wrapped up in gossip and to protect the peace of those around you. In old age, our relationships should bring us joy, comfort, and mutual support, not tension or distrust. By keeping our conversations focused on positivity and genuine interest, we build bonds that uplift us rather than drain us. And remember, if someone insists on gossip despite your gentle redirections, it's okay to set a boundary. You can kindly let them know that you prefer to focus on more uplifting topics. Here's something to think about. If you could give one piece of advice about keeping relationships positive, what would it be? Share your wisdom in the comments. You never know who might benefit from your insights. Point 3. The manipulator. The manipulator is another challenging type of person to encounter in our later years. Unlike the chronic complainer or the unstoppable gossiper, the manipulator is often much more subtle, making their presence hard to recognize at first. Manipulators are skilled at bending situations to their advantage, often through guilt, emotional blackmail, or twisting words in a way that leaves us doubting our own judgment. It can be exhausting to deal with someone who always seems to get what they want by subtly playing on our emotions or making us feel responsible for their well-being. Imagine a scenario where a relative approaches you with a request. Maybe they need financial help or a favor. At first, it seems simple enough, but as you try to set boundaries, they become emotional, suggesting that your reluctance means you don't care about them. Manipulators are experts at making us feel guilty, and they often know just the right words to use to make us question our actions. This kind of influence can drain our energy, making us feel uncertain and responsible for their happiness. One of the most effective ways to protect yourself from manipulation is by building what I like to call the shield of authenticity. This means being clear about your values, boundaries, and what truly matters to you. When we have a strong sense of self, it becomes easier to recognize when someone is trying to cross our boundaries or twist our intentions. For example, if a family member or friend is pressuring you to do something that feels wrong, remember your own values and be firm in saying no. This doesn't mean being unkind. It's simply about protecting your peace and mental well-being. Setting boundaries with a manipulator also involves a healthy dose of assertiveness. Many people feel guilty about saying no, especially to loved ones, but it's important to remember that prioritizing your own well-being isn't selfish. A simple, honest response can be as direct as, "I understand that you're in a tough spot, but I'm unable to help with this right now." You don't have to over-explain. Stand firm and avoid falling into the guilt trap. Another effective strategy is to seek input from trusted friends or family members. Manipulators often isolate us, making it seem like their perspective is the only one that matters. Having an outside perspective can be incredibly valuable in recognizing manipulative behavior. Talking it over with someone you trust can give you the clarity needed to stand firm in your choices. Think about this. What advice would you give someone who feels overwhelmed by the demands of others? How would you encourage them to set boundaries? Share your thoughts in the comments. It could be just the encouragement someone else needs to protect their own peace. Point 4. The obsessive controller. As we age, having a sense of freedom and independence becomes even more valuable. But there's one type of person who threatens this freedom: the obsessive controller. The obsessive controller is someone who, often driven by fear or insecurity, feels the need to control every aspect of the lives of those around them. They're the type who often believes they know what's best for everyone, including you, and they won't hesitate to give unsolicited advice or even direct your choices. While their intentions may not always be harmful, the impact of their behavior can be exhausting and limiting. Picture a situation where a friend or family member tries to dictate every detail of your life, from what you should eat to how you should spend your time. They might call you frequently to check in, offer advice that feels more like demands, and even guilt you if you don't follow their suggestions. It can be difficult to manage this type of personality, as they often disguise their controlling behavior as care or concern. Over time, their constant need to be involved in your choices can wear you down, making you feel as though you're not capable of managing your own life. The key to dealing with an obsessive controller is to embrace what psychologist Carl Rogers once called the power of acceptance. This doesn't mean accepting their control, but rather understanding that you cannot change their behavior, only your response to it. Recognize that their behavior is likely rooted in their own fears or insecurities. Once you've acknowledged this, it becomes easier to assert your boundaries without guilt or frustration. Let them know, gently but firmly, that you appreciate their concern but are confident in your own choices. For example, you might say, "Thank you for your advice, but I feel comfortable handling this my way." It can also be helpful to practice what I call selective sharing. Obsessive controllers often feed off of knowing details about your life so they can direct them. By selectively sharing only the information you feel comfortable with, you limit their influence. For instance, if you know that talking about a health concern might lead to endless advice, keep the conversation general or steer it toward topics where they're less likely to interfere. Remember, your life is yours to lead, and it's perfectly acceptable to choose a path that feels right to you, even if it doesn't align with someone else's idea of what's best. Over time, as you gently but consistently reinforce your boundaries, the obsessive controller may begin to recognize that you're independent and capable. Here's a question for you. What's one thing you've done in your life that brought you a sense of independence and joy? Share it in the comments. It might just inspire others to take control of their own happiness. Point 5. The attention seeker. Another personality to be mindful of is the attention seeker, that individual who has a knack for turning any conversation into a story about themselves. They're the ones who always seem to steer the topic back to their lives, often dominating the conversation without giving others a chance to speak. While this behavior can be exhausting at any age, it becomes particularly draining in later years when we cherish meaningful connections and balanced interactions. Imagine being at a small gathering with friends. Everyone is sharing stories, laughing, and catching up, but one person constantly shifts the spotlight back to themselves. No matter what someone else says, they have an experience that's just a little more interesting or a story that's even better. Over time, this constant focus on themselves can make others feel invisible or unappreciated. Social interactions should be enjoyable and energizing, not dominated by one person's need for attention. One of the best ways to handle an attention seeker is by setting subtle boundaries within the conversation. For example, when they start to monopolize the discussion, you could gently redirect the focus to someone else with a comment like, "That's interesting. I wonder, Sarah, what's your experience with this?" Or, "That reminds me of something Jack mentioned earlier." This polite redirection can help restore balance without coming off as rude or confrontational. Another approach is to make use of what psychologists call the sandwich technique. This involves inserting your own comments or thoughts in between their stories to keep the conversation balanced. For instance, if they begin another long monologue, you might interject with, "That's a good story. It reminds me of when I..." This small interruption can help establish a rhythm in the conversation that feels more inclusive. It's also okay to limit the time you spend with someone who constantly seeks attention if the relationship feels one-sided. Attention seekers often don't realize the impact of their behavior, so gentle guidance can sometimes help them become more aware. For instance, you might try complimenting them when they do listen or share the spotlight with others, reinforcing the behavior you'd like to see more of. Finally, it's helpful to remember that, often, the attention seeker is acting out of insecurity or a desire for validation. A bit of empathy can go a long way, and with some patience, you may even find that they begin to listen more. Now, here's something to think about. What's one quality you appreciate in a good listener? Share it in the comments below. It might just encourage others to bring a little more balance and kindness into their conversations. Point 6. The opportunist. As we get older, relationships based on authenticity and mutual respect become essential to our happiness and peace of mind. However, there's one type of person who can disrupt this balance: the opportunist. The opportunist is someone who only sticks around when it's convenient for them. They'll be there when they need something from you, but when life gets challenging, they're nowhere to be found. This type of relationship can feel draining, especially when you realize that the connection is more about what they can get rather than any genuine care or support. Picture this. You've supported a friend through various ups and downs, always being there when they needed a helping hand or a shoulder to lean on. But the moment you face a challenge or need support, they're too busy or mysteriously out of reach. It's disheartening to feel like a friendship only exists for the other person's benefit. As we age, our time and energy are precious, and it's important to surround ourselves with people who bring value to our lives and appreciate the bond for what it truly is. The first step in handling an opportunist is to pay attention to patterns. Do they only reach out when they need a favor? Do they disappear during tough times? Noticing these signs can help you become more aware of how one-sided the relationship might be. Remember, relationships should be based on mutual support, not just convenience. One practical approach is to start setting boundaries. If an opportunist is always asking for favors, consider politely declining now and then. For example, if they ask for a favor that feels inconvenient, you might say, "I'm not able to help with that right now," without giving a detailed explanation. This gentle boundary can encourage them to recognize that your time is valuable, too. Another way to test the sincerity of the relationship is to ask for support yourself. Try sharing something personal or asking for a bit of help with a small task, and see how they respond. Genuine friends will be there for you when you need them, while an opportunist might be evasive or hesitant to reciprocate. This can be a clear sign of whether they value the friendship for what it truly is or just for the benefits they can gain. It's perfectly fine to reduce contact with people who don't bring positivity or genuine support into your life. Letting go of relationships that don't serve you is an act of self-respect, not selfishness. Here's a question for reflection. What's one quality you cherish in a truly supportive friend? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. Your insight could help others think about what really matters in a relationship. Point 7. The secret envious one. The secret envious one is perhaps one of the most challenging types of people to identify and deal with, especially in our later years. Unlike the opportunist, who is fairly obvious in their actions, the secret envious one is more subtle, often hiding behind smiles and congratulatory words that feel just a bit insincere. They might appear as supportive friends or family members on the surface, but underneath, there's a lingering sense of jealousy that drives their interactions. Over time, being around someone who envies your happiness, success, or even just your peace of mind can be draining and, in some cases, quite harmful. Imagine you've accomplished something you're proud of, perhaps a small victory, a personal achievement, or a joyous family event. While others celebrate with you, the secret envious one might subtly downplay your success, change the topic, or make an offhand comment that dampens your joy. They may even seem happy when things don't go well for you, revealing hints of pleasure when you share a difficulty or setback. It's a subtle behavior, but it can make you feel uncomfortable and reluctant to share your joys with them over time. To handle this kind of hidden envy, the key is to establish boundaries around what you choose to share. While it may be natural to share your joys with friends and family, limiting how much you reveal to someone you suspect of envy can help protect your emotional well-being. Instead, Keep interactions with them positive but somewhat surface level, steering away from deeply personal topics. This way, you can still maintain a cordial relationship without giving them access to details they might twist or feel envious about. Another powerful tool for managing the impact of envy is gratitude. By focusing on your own gratitude for what you have and celebrating your successes internally, you don't need external validation or approval. This can create a kind of emotional armor, making you less affected by subtle envy. As an added benefit, gratitude has been shown to increase happiness and mental resilience, helping you stay grounded even when others may not fully support you. It's also useful to remember that envy often stems from insecurity or dissatisfaction in a person's own life. Recognizing this doesn't mean you need to tolerate hurtful behavior, but it can help you approach the situation with compassion rather than resentment. Sometimes, showing kindness or expressing empathy toward an envious person can actually reduce the tension and help them feel less threatened. So here's something to think about. What's one small thing you're grateful for today? Take a moment to reflect, and feel free to share it in the comments. It might just brighten someone else's day, too. Embracing gratitude can be a powerful way to stay happy, no matter who's around you. Point 8. The energy vampire. Finally, we come to the energy vampire. Unlike fictional vampires, these individuals don't drain your blood. They drain your energy, leaving you feeling exhausted and emotionally depleted. The energy vampire is someone who, with their constant problems, complaints, and emotional demands, leaves you feeling empty after every interaction. They often don't realize the effect they have on others, but their presence can be deeply tiring, especially as we get older and value our energy more than ever. Imagine spending time with someone who always brings their problems to you, but never seems to consider your needs or feelings. Every conversation revolves around their struggles, their worries, and their issues, with little room for you to share anything in return. It's not that they're going through a temporary rough patch. Rather, this draining behavior is part of who they are. Being around them feels like carrying an emotional weight, making you feel fatigued and even reluctant to meet up. One of the best ways to protect yourself from the energy vampire is by setting clear boundaries. If they start sharing a series of complaints or emotionally charged stories, gently guide the conversation toward lighter or more positive topics. For instance, you could say, "I understand it's been tough, but let's talk about something that makes us happy." This way, you're acknowledging their feelings while also steering the conversation to a place where it's less draining. Another useful technique is the visualization of an energy shield. Before you spend time with someone who tends to be emotionally demanding, imagine yourself surrounded by a protective barrier that lets in positive energy but blocks out negativity. Studies in cognitive psychology have shown that visualizations like these can genuinely impact our emotional state, helping us stay calm and less affected by others' energy. If the energy vampire is someone you care about, but who consistently leaves you feeling drained, consider limiting the time you spend with them. It's okay to protect your own energy and well-being. Sometimes, even just reducing the frequency of interactions or having shorter conversations can make a big difference. Remember, self-care is essential, and being selective about how you spend your time and energy is not selfish. It's necessary for maintaining your own mental and emotional health. Here's a question for you. What's one thing you do to recharge your energy when you're feeling drained? Share it in the comments. Your tip could be exactly what someone else needs to hear. By learning to protect our energy, we ensure we have more to give to the relationships and activities that truly bring us joy. As we navigate through life, especially in our later years, the people we keep close can have a profound impact on our happiness, peace, and overall well-being. By identifying and setting boundaries with those who bring negativity, drama, or emotional weight into our lives, we make room for more positivity and fulfillment. Aging gracefully isn't just about our health or circumstances. It's about choosing relationships that support and uplift us. We all deserve to be surrounded by people who genuinely care, listen, and bring positivity into our lives. Each step we take toward a more positive circle of friends and family members strengthens our emotional resilience and mental well-being. And as studies suggest, being around supportive, uplifting people can lead to longer, healthier lives. Remember, setting boundaries is not about pushing people away, but about making space for happiness and peace. So, as we wrap up this journey, I invite you to think about the people in your life who truly lift you up. Take a moment to appreciate those connections and, perhaps, even let them know how much they mean to you. By surrounding ourselves with people who genuinely care, we create a fulfilling life that reflects the joy, wisdom, and peace we've gained over the years. If you found value in these insights, please like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to stay connected. And before you go, share in the comments, what's one quality you appreciate most in a friend or family member? Your response might just inspire someone else to look for the same in their own relationships. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you in the next video.